team. This is the last podcast episode before I head off. I love the lighting in here at the moment because it looks like I'm a devil. Well, I am feeling a little bit devilish. So yeah, a little bit of an update. This will be the last ordinary podcast episode. We are heading off on our grand adventure on the 28th of April. So that's in a couple of weeks' time. But my dance card is quite full, so I thought I would do an update episode, and then I have organised myself with a little clip-on mic so I can take you on the road, because I'm pretty keen on sharing more of the day-to-day of what we are doing. So if you haven't heard the news yet, my husband and I, about 2.5 or 3 months ago, or maybe a little bit longer than that, we're chatting backwards and forwards. It actually all came from having a conversation with the real estate agent, because we own 2 properties, and we were talking about, do we, split and sell the back half of our property or whatever. Anyway, out of that, we had a conversation about renting and how much rent we would get for our house. And then from there, I was saying to my husband, this is nuts. We could be renting our house, keep our asset in Australia because we are always going to want to come home to where our kids are, but then go on a great adventure. I've been talking about this for years. When my first business was a baby, we actually sold everything really, really quickly. So my dad passed away in 2011. He'd been living with us for 6 years. And when he passed away, we just, all of us felt, well, I particularly felt very much like I needed to not be where he'd gotten sick. He was my best friend and I was in deep grief. Anyway, something inside of me, whilst I was on retreat by myself just after he passed away, for some reason, I was watching videos, and I had been following this coach in New York City, and I really, really loved the way that she approached well-being for women. And she talked about pleasure being the gateway to well-being. And yes, whilst she was talking about weight loss kind of coaching, what really attracted me to her was her focus on pleasure being the gateway for unlocking so much well-being. And I was like, that is my philosophy. That is what I believe to be true in my body. And anyway, I didn't realize at the time, because in those days, most people were writing blogs. Video content wasn't really that common. But for some reason this day when I was on retreat, I saw a video, and she happened to be Australian. Now, up until then, I didn't know she was Australian. And I don't know why, there is, I think, about 23 million Australians. It's not like we all know each other. But something possessed me to find the phone number of the wellness center in New York and just ring on the off chance that someone would answer. And just because the time zones worked out, it was afternoon in Australia, or it was the first thing in the morning this person actually answered the phone, which is really unusual because she has a whole staff over there. Anyway, I was talking to her, and I basically just said, you don't know me from a virus soap, but I really, really would love to come and learn from you. Do you have a training I can do? Whatever. And she on the spot offered me an internship, which was absolutely insane to me at the time. I got really excited. I had that feeling in my body of yes, 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 that deep, in the moment knowing. And I packed up from the retreat and I went home to my husband and I said, so how do you feel about me going to New York to do an internship? Now, to put this into perspective, we had a 5 and a 6-year-old then, right? So it wasn't a small ask. Anyway, as he is always wont to do, his immediate response was, absolutely, go. But here's the catch, we're all going. And I was like, okay, cool. So what felt like on a whim to a lot of people around us, sold our house, packed everything up into a container and moved to the United States. And the whole packing up and putting everything in a container, I think, took us about 6 weeks beginning to end. We sold our house very quickly. It all just went bang, 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 bang. And then we stayed for a little while in a beautiful ocean resort right on the beach for about 9 months, I think, before we actually went, because there was a delay between, when the internship started. Anyway, so this like packing everything up on a whim is not new to us. But I did have a little moment a few years ago where I was like, that wild child part of me that just trusts her instincts and makes a phone call to someone on the other side of the world and has a magnificent opportunity fall in her lap and trusts herself and goes on this mad adventure with her family and has the most beautiful time. I felt like that part of me had disappeared. It's like, I don't know. I think like 46, 47-year-old version of me was like, oh yeah, that's the sort of stuff I used to do when I was younger. And I don't know, for a few years there, I kind of felt like I was getting old before my time and in a bit of Groundhog Day, to be really, really honest. And I kind of felt like that like risk-taking part of me was long gone. Anyway, turns out I was wrong because, as I said a few months ago, we were talking to a real estate agent, and back then I had always said, because I have an online business, there's no need for us to be anywhere particular in the world. So in that year that we traveled, that time I wrote a book on an iPad in Central Park. Highly do not recommend. It's not the most efficient way of writing a book. I spent 3 months in New York by myself. I had time to grieve. And I had the most magical time of I stayed in a place near Battery Park, which is right down the bottom of New York City. And I just played this game with myself because I was by myself. The kids and my husband were in Portland, Oregon, which is where part of his family's from. And yeah, I used to just head out. I used to put good, comfy shoes on, and I used to just head out for the day, and at each intersection, I would just go left or right, left or right, left or right. And I'm going to take these glasses. Oh, that's better. Can't see my devil thing. And with that, just, I don't know, like I needed the space to grieve. You know, if anyone's had kids, like, you know how full on those first few years are. And also because we went from the two of us, my beautiful husband and I, to 5 of us in a house in the space of 12 months. So my 2 babies were 12 months apart, but also my dad had quite a serious stroke while I was pregnant with my second daughter. So that's when we sold his house and we built another house on our property so he could be close to us, but also that we could take care of him when he needed to. So he was 85 when he became, 80, is that right? 84 when he became a grandparent the first time, and 85 when his second grandbaby was born. So we'd taken care of him for 6 years, and not all of that was hands-on, because for a lot of that he was actually quite a lot better. But you can imagine that identity shift of going from, like, I went from, managing a private medical company with hundreds of employees across multiple sites in our state, and playing the game of success equals getting a good job with good money and taking on lots of responsibility, which really for someone like me is just code for bleeding yourself dry, like just to embed the working hard to create income and sacrificing your health all the time. So I was managing a respiratory and sleep clinic, and that meant that if someone didn't show up for their night shift, I would just work a day shift and then I would stay and work a night shift. So, and I was doing that when I was pregnant. Oh my goodness. I look back now and I think, 29-year-old me, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? What were you thinking? Anyway, so yes, identity-wise, I'd gone through a massive shift from, climbing the corporate ladder, getting this general manager job, lots and lots of self-sacrificing tendencies, and then came 2 babies and a dad that needed looking after in the space of 12 months. So I had a massive identity shift. I found it really hard. I very quickly worked out that I wasn't cut out to be a full-time stay-at-home mum and also carer for my dad. I found it really difficult. And so, bless my husband, he's always been that person that's like, all right, well, let's just try this. And so we both used to work half-time, and yeah, it was really, really good. And I look back and I think, he's got such a special relationship with our girls, and I really do believe that part of that is the hands-on parenting in those days as well. Anyway, so gone through that big identity shift. 6 years later, dad passes away. Then we decide to go to the States. And then I find myself in New York City for 3 months, solo and grieving. And what a wildly healing and harrowing experience. I still remember I flew into New York City and I was in the back of one of those, the stereotypical yellow cabs in New York City. And I'm just like, somebody pinch me. I'm just a chick from Australia. I'm not anything special, but I've been given this internship and we've just packed our whole family up and like, what the hell? And then that first day I walked to the nearest Whole Foods and I got my food for the, time that I was there, or the first little bit, and met my roomie because I actually, it wasn't Airbnb back then. It was something different. I can't remember. But anyway, I rented a bedroom and a bathroom from a lady in Battery Hill. I think I said Battery Park before, didn't I? But Battery Hill. Now I'm wondering, is it Battery Hill or Battery Park? Doesn't matter. Anyway, what was absolutely delicious about those 3 months was that I had lots of solo time. Now I know from a human design perspective, I am literally, like, I've always known this about myself, but now knowing human design as a filter to kind of more self-compassion, self-understanding, I'm like, of course I needed lots of time to myself. That's literally what a 6/2 and a manifestor needs. And I also got to just strap on shoes, go left or right, and just play this beautiful game of beginner's mind for everything. Everything was new. I had been to the States before, but I'd never been to New York. I'd never traveled by myself for that long. I'd never shared a place with someone I didn't know. I'd never, interned. Like, there was so many different firsts, and now also looking back, I think, of course, but the ADHD part of my brain was going ping, dopamine. So it was really, really cool. And I also definitely have been thinking for a little while now, maybe that risk-taking wild child that just trusts her instincts and trusts herself has disappeared. Anyway, fast forward to 4 months ago, talking to a real estate agent. And back then, when we came back from the States, I had always had in my head, like I kept on saying to my husband, like, we always were looking at alternative schooling for our kids. And I'm like, surely we could put the kids in green school in Bali, which had this amazing approach to alternative ways of educating kids through the whole being, not just the brain on legs. And we could go to Bali, and then we could go there and whatever. So it's always been kind of talked about. But that was back in 2012. Fast forward to now, and we're having this conversation with this real estate agent about selling this block. And I'm just like, hang on a minute, what would we get for rent for our house? Because, I live in a little country town. Like, I had no idea what places were renting and selling for. But because there's so many people moving out of cities to the nearest town near us, the price rises are rippling out into even regional areas where we are. And I just said to my husband, what are we doing here? Like, I can work from anywhere. You haven't taken your latest firefighting contract, so what are we doing? And like I said in a couple of episodes ago, like, I had felt like I was in Groundhog Day, and it's been really cool to notice the wild child, or the self-trusting parts of both of us, not just me, but Shane as well, coming out to play and, feeling into this adventure. I also will say I have found, like, we've moved a lot in our marriage. Like, we've lived all over the place, and we get bored easily, so we move, have moved very often. And I will say that the packing up of this house, where we've been for the most amount of time, which is 8 years, has been really hard. Just the non-stop to-do list, and the, selling things and selling vehicles, but packing everything into a container. Like, we've done it all before, but it's felt a lot heavier. And I don't know whether is it an age thing? Is it that when you get older, you do get more fixed in your ways? So actually challenging and choosing that adventurous part feels less available. I don't know. I don't even know if that feels like my truth at the moment. But what I am noticing is that the more that, and I talked about this last week as well, like this fear and freedom are two sides of the same coin, right? Like there's been a lot of fear come up. And even my beautiful friend Jodie, shout out to Jodie if she's listening in, she asked me today, she's like, so how are you feeling about it all? And both Shane and I are still feeling quite numb. Like it's happening, but I think both of us, when we get on the plane, we'll both go, whew, because there's still lots to get done. Like my to-do list has been on this A3 page, and things like travel vaccinations and organising visas and then organising flights from here to there and whatnot. Anyway, that just makes me sound like, what high quality problems to have, what high quality problems to have, very cognizant of the fact that there is also a war going on and multiple atrocities across the world. So, there's a part of me that's like, stop being a fucking princess. Like, you've got a to-do list because you are going on an adventure. Like, be grateful. And I'm overwhelmingly grateful to be at a place in our life and my business where we can make a decision like this and have the choice to say, yeah, we're going to go on an adventure. And it's so funny, there's two different camps of people when we talk about this. We were at a family event last weekend and, saying goodbye to family, but also seeing family we haven't seen for a while and telling them what we're up to. And there's two different camps. There's the camp that's like, oh my God, I'm so jealous. Like, where are you going? How exciting. And then there's a camp that's like, but what do you mean you've packed everything up? And what do you mean you've rented your house? And what do you mean you don't know where you're going? So it's interesting to notice that. Anyway, I can finally share that one of the magical things that has happened as a result of letting this wild child trusting part of me come back online, part of us come back online, has been the most magnificent opportunity fall in our lap. And we are actually going to be taking care of a set of brand new beautiful beachfront villas in Vietnam, on an island is what I was trying to say, for a few months. And yeah, it just can't quite believe that. It feels like a pinch me moment. It feels already like that magnificent opportunity is opening up multiple doors. And I can't help but think that the belief that that wild part of me had gone offline and wasn't accessible anymore was shutting down the field of possibilities to only be certain things open. And I feel like every single time we say yes to adventure, and yes, we don't know where we're going and we have no control over anything, and yes, there's a war going on and who knows what will happen with fuel prices and blah, 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 like all of the things that the more conservative people are like, but, the more that we say, yeah, but we trust ourselves, like, yeah, we're not going into a war zone for starters. And also, if something happens, like someone said to me the other day, what if the world shuts down like COVID? And I'm like, well, if that happens, we'll just respond. Like, we're flexible people, right? And yeah, it's been quite cool to watch how the field of possibilities feels like it is back to being very wide open instead of just inside of this possibility box where my brain is filtering everything else out that feels a little bit, left of center. So the way this opportunity came to us, I've been saying affirmations about being a magnet to magnificent opportunities for many, many years. And I wrote about this a little bit in my newsletter last week. Like, affirmations, I'm not anti-affirmations, but I think that they're very limited, right? Because affirmations, if you're affirming, I'm a magnet for magnificent opportunities, and straight away there is a part of you that comes out to play going as if that's for us, or that doesn't feel safe, or your body is completely, going into fight, flight, freeze, fawn, etc. It doesn't matter what you say with this part of you. If this part of you, and if you're listening to audio, when I say this part of you, I mean the neck up, You can affirm with the neck up, but if the neck down does not agree or it doesn't feel safe, it ain't going to happen. And so it's been interesting also to watch that. I have this beautiful friend, Janine, who's a friend from the Sunshine Coast, and she has a friend who also was on the Sunshine Coast, but we missed each other. In our timeline. The Sunshine Coast is where we used to live when I first started my business, and I did lots of networking there. I've got lots of beautiful friends that I'm still in touch with. And Janine sent me a message. Geez, it's only been about 3 weeks, I think, or maybe 4 since we got the email, text. And she's like, "Hey, Kylie, I know Shane and you are heading to Southeast Asia for this grand adventure, and I'm so excited for you." Janine is a freaking sunshine on legs. Sunshine on legs. She's always just so delighted about life and everything, and it's a blessing to have her continue to be a connection. And yeah, she said, "I know you're over there. You need to see this post." And this beautiful lady who she knew posted this opportunity saying, "We are looking for caretakers for our brand new beachfront villas whilst we are away in the off season." And lots of comments later. I think there's probably 80 or 90 comments underneath that post. But as soon as I read it, I was like, and again, I got the feeling in my body, like that tingling, like the hum of like, oh, this feels like something I want to investigate and feel into. So I sent this beautiful lady a message, and long story short, they spoke to a couple of different couples, and Mr. P and I have been chosen as the preferred couple to take care. We really have nothing, no idea what to expect. Like, obviously we've talked to them, we've asked lots of questions, and we're there in the down season, so it means that there's going to be rain, and potentially there might be I should know this, is it cyclone or typhoon? It's so confusing when you actually, like, a hurricane, a tornado, a cyclone, and a typhoon are all different things. And some of them are in the northern hemisphere, some are in the south. And I actually can't remember. I think it might be a typhoon. Anyway, there could potentially be bad weather during the time that we're there. And also, what a wild opportunity to go and immerse yourself in a culture, because we don't love doing the touristy stuff. We sometimes do the touristy stuff, but if we're going overseas, we want to see and live the way that local communities do. Like, we're not there for the whitened up Western version of life. And these villas are in a little fishing village in the northwest corner of Phuket. And yeah, there's these people are partnered with a local family, so there's a restaurant on site, and the lady cooks everything for the restaurant, and I'm really hoping she might want to teach me some things. And we're right in a fishing village, and so we're going to be the only Westerners. I guess if we have guests, then they'll be potentially Westerners as well, but the only Westerners around in the community. And I'm just so looking forward to just being somewhere completely different again, and noticing and learning how people do life in a completely different environment with a completely different culture and completely different values. And it just feels like every single bit of me that was alive and, grieving but delighted at being in beginner's mind when I was back in New York for those 3 months is coming online. And I guess you can probably see it or hear it in my voice. I'm just delighted. I'm delighted. Oh, getting a bit teary. How cool. And, we don't know what to expect. We really don't know what to expect. So yeah, that's our big news. And I just am really, really, really fucking grateful to feel myself in the same light-hearted, responsive, adventurous, self-trusting space that I was back when I made that out of the box phone call in 2011 and got an internship. And it does make me think that, the difference between affirming I'm a magnet for magnificent opportunities and being open to and feeling safe being available for magnificent opportunities, they're two very different states. And I feel like, I talk to a lot of women, particularly in their 50s. And it's interesting, the vast majority of people that applied for this, it wasn't that formal a process, but, put their hand up for this, were single women in their 50s that were looking for somewhere to take some time out of life and do some soul searching. And it just leaves me wondering if we naturally get to a stage when we're in the perimenopause to menopause transition, which potentially for some of us lines up with a newly empty nest or, parents passing or, more caring responsibilities or whatever, there seems to be this thread of conversation for so many people that I know in a similar age group. Like I've just turned 51, but kind of think from like mid 40 to mid 50, where it feels like everything becomes up for grabs again in terms of like, is this really what I want? Am I really available for this? Do I want something else? What do I really desire? And I just want to say to you, if you find yourself in that transformative space, even if your identity for so many years has been someone who did live in Groundhog Day or was the responsible one or was always looking after everybody else or didn't lean towards desires because you believe that this is just how life has to be. Like if any of that is your reality, like you do get to choose. And, I used to have these bookmarks and on one side it had, you're never a victim of your circumstances, you're only ever a victim of what you believe is possible. And so that was from a course that I used to teach called Destination Delicious. And on the other side was your past does not dictate your future. No matter what, your past does not dictate your future. And I think I'd forgotten both of those things, to be really honest with you. And it's really fucking good to feel myself back where I really feel the truth of both of those things. And yeah, if you're at the stage where you're feeling like the identity that you have right now is not fitting, like you get to choose something different. The world is literally your oyster. You can choose something different. You can stretch your capacity to have more field of possibilities open. You can do something wild like ring someone and see where it turns out. You can trust your instinct and go overseas. It might not be any of those things, but whatever it is that's like, in the back of your awareness or something that your body is tingling at going, that feels interesting. Like trust yourself, lean towards it, because what sort of magic have we all been cutting ourselves off from? Believing that whatever we've experienced already is what we can experience in the future, and or believing that now that I'm this old, I can't do wild things or I can't go on an adventure, and that may not be your belief system. It might be something completely different, but it's like we need to really, really get radically self-responsible for the shit that we're telling ourselves up here. Because there is a part of me that's like, wow, the last time I took a big risk like this was 2011. That's a long time between drinks. What parts of life have I cut myself off from? And self-compassion always, right? Like I was doing what I thought was the right thing. So I don't regret not being there, but it does make me wonder. And I have a very clear sense that the me who is recording this, a couple of weeks out from leaving the country, I'm not going to recognize myself in another month. And I'm certainly not going to recognize myself in 3 months or 6 months or 12 months. And that's really exciting. It's really exciting. And yeah, there's a little bit of terrified, little 10% of terrified there too. But I'm up for it. So next time you see me, I will be, recording somewhere in the world. And I don't know whether the podcast will be regular every week. I don't know. I'm very clear that I'm loosening the rules of reality on a lot of different fronts at the moment. And part of that is not believing that my connection with you who are in my audience, in my circle, in my communities, require me to have it perfectly planned out so that I have an episode neatly delivered every week, which is the way I've been moving through the world for quite a while. But I just don't believe that. I don't believe that being perfect or being consistent is as important as turning up when I have something to say. So, from my daughter's home, and the next week is quite wild because we'll be 2 nights with my parents, 2 nights with Shane's parents, and then we're on a cruise which was booked years ago for a friend's 60th birthday just for the weekend. And then when we get back from that, we've got 1 week left. Okay, I'm signing off. Oh my goodness, I'm signing off and I'm super excited for what the future holds. So big love. If you would like to come on for the ride, I would love to have you here. So if you don't already subscribe to the YouTube channel or, subscribe to the podcast, if you're watching the video, you're already on my YouTube channel, so you can click the subscribe button. And for the podcast, all of the links to sign up on your favorite platforms are at kyliepatchett.com/pod. So yeah, let's see where this wild beginner's mind adventure, wild child gap year is going to take us. Have a beautiful day.